The LaLaurie mansion, located in the French Quarter of New Orleans, has a grim reputation. Its former owner, Madame Delphine McCarthy LaLaurie, was a wealthy socialite in the early 19th century. The urban legend says that she treated her workers very badly. One night on April 10, 1834, Madame LaLaurie's house began to burn. Madame and her family managed to escape, but she abandoned her workers. They were locked inside the house. The locals, outraged by her negligence, gathered around the house, broke some of its walls, and eventually stole the remaining possessions. After the fire, the LaLaurie family escaped to Paris. Another private mansion was built on this Louisiana land. But it's said that the ghosts of those workers are still trapped inside the property. They tend to bother living people demanding justice. Today, the house is private, but you can book a tour and hear this story in detail. By the way, the mansion and its notorious owner played a big part in the American Horror Story franchise, although they didn't actually film the series in that particular house. American actress and director Kathy Bates played Madame LaLaurie and showcased the quirky character of this famous woman. So you can check it out if you're not afraid. Our next creepy destination was also shown in a movie franchise, the Amityville Horror. The media says this Dutch colonial-style home is located in the village of Amityville in New York. George and Kathy Lutz bought this property in 1975 for $80,000. The low price was due to the tragedy that happened in the house 1 year before. One night, a young man named Ronnie DeFeo, who lived in the house, took the lives of all his family members. The Lutz family began to notice strange activities in the house, such as phantom odors, unreasonably low temperatures, and loud sounds of unknown origin. According to the Lutz family, one day they called a preacher to clear the grim vibes, but he felt very bad during the ritual and his hand started bleeding. The Lutzes fled the house in a rush. Their spooky story inspired the Amityville Horror, a book written by American author Jay Anson and several successful horror movies. Although the house was reconstructed, it still exists. However, its address has been changed to confuse the trail and prevent crowds of tourists from gathering around it. Do you recognize this seemingly cute house in Harrisville, Rhode Island? It's known as one of the most haunted houses in America. The property earned its notorious reputation after multiple people lost their lives in this house over the years. In 1970, the Perrons family began to live here, and according to the legend, an invisible being lived along with them. At first, the entity was playful, but then it started getting more sinister. The family members experienced physical attacks and unexplainable illnesses. They invited the famous mystery hunters, Ed and Lorraine Warren, to research this case, which later inspired a book and the movie The Conjuring, released in 2013. In 2019, the property was purchased by the Heisens family, who also investigated mysteries. They reported some weird stuff going on in the house too, and eventually developed a successful business on haunted tourism. They sold the property for nearly $1.5 million in 2022. Let's move on to Tennessee. The urban legend tells a creepy story that started in 1804. John Bell and his family moved to this peaceful-looking farm in North Carolina. At first, everything went well, but 13 years later, the family began to experience bone-chilling events. At first, they started seeing weird animal-like shadows around the farm. Soon, these mysterious guests began to whisper and eventually talk out loud. Some mysterious entity began to wake up the family at night with loud noises and attacks. It particularly bothered their young daughter, Betsy Bell. Invisible hands grabbed Betsy by the hair and hit her body. When she grew up and was about to get married, the entity did everything to break the engagement, saying that Betsy wouldn't be happy with her groom. Rumors about these scary events spread throughout the village, and the locals began to visit the farm, hoping to see it for themselves. They called the entity Bell Witch. Many years have passed, but the locals still believe that the phantom of the evil witch lives in these places and hides in a cave near the farm. Ohio is one of the most notoriously haunted states in the USA. One of its legendary spots is the Mansfield Reformatory, a former prison that supposedly hosts the country's most creepy entities. The prison is nearly 130 years old. It was closed in 1990 and soon gained fame, especially after becoming the filming location for The Shawshank Redemption. And since we're passing through Ohio, let's take a look at another spooky place. The Chippewa Lake Amusement Park used to attract many guests with its various rides, roller coasters, and iconic Ferris wheel. But in the 1970s, 100 years after opening, the park was forced to close. It happened due to poor maintenance and low attendance. The park has gone through multiple fires, so today it looks like a bunch of creepy ruins overgrown with shrubs and rust. Mark Twain had been living in this charismatic house in Hartford, Connecticut for about 17 years. In this period, he wrote both The Adventures of Tom Sawyer and The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. Today, this property serves as a museum that showcases the author's life. But it's also known for some mysterious phenomena. Multiple visitors reported hearing odd noises and seeing a phantom of a woman in white. The most haunted part of the house is the billiard room. Twain used to chill there a lot during his stay, and today, some visitors claim they can smell tobacco smoke as they pass through. Now, Pennsylvania has lots of terrifying tales to offer. Despite its chic appearance, this fancy mansion has been empty for a while now. Its owner, Peter Widener, finished the construction after losing his beloved wife, Hannah, during a tragic yacht trip. It happened at the end of the 19th century, and eventually, Widener lost multiple relatives in this house. He was wealthy enough to invest in the Titanic construction. Perhaps he was fascinated by the idea of an unsinkable ship. But unfortunately, both Peter's oldest son and grandson lost their lives when the Titanic sank. Eventually, the mansion was abandoned. But it's said that the phantoms of the Widener family are still there. And speaking of the Titanic, Molly Brown was one of the survivors. She got famous for rowing a lifeboat for about 7 hours before reaching a safe place. But Molly's own mansion in Denver gained a spooky reputation. She owned the haunted property together with her husband, who ran a mining business. Over the years, multiple people reported seeing phantoms of cats and human figures running down the staircase of the house. The witnesses of such visions insist that something spooky is definitely going on behind these walls. Today, the mansion operates as a museum, so you can go and see it for yourself. And how about meeting a creepy phantom while doing some casual shopping in Soho? The urban legend dates back to 1799. A young lady, Gulielma Elmore Sands, tried to escape with her lover, Levi Weeks. They were tenants in the same boarding house. Around 2 weeks later, her body was found at the bottom of a well in the building that today hosts a large retail store, COS. After the horrifying discovery, the police arrested Levi. Although he was acquitted, Sands' phantom is said to haunt the building as a warning to other ladies. The creepiest thing is that the well is still there and shoppers can see it in the basement at the back of the men's department. Now brace yourself and welcome to the famous haunted toy store in Sunnyvale, California. The legend says that the land under the property used to be a plantation owned by Martin Murphy. He hired a preacher, Johnny Johnson, who fell in love with Murphy's daughter, Elizabeth. But she got engaged to a lawyer. Johnny's heart was broken, and he lost his life in an accident while chopping wood. Today, Johnny's phantom reportedly wanders around the Toys R Us store, still chasing his beloved Elizabeth. Customers and employees report seeing objects moving on their own, hearing mysterious footsteps, and even Johnny's whispers over the intercom system. Ooh. It's a beautiful day. A family's having a picnic on a creek in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Everything seems normal. But suddenly, they spot a thin woman in an old-fashioned gown floating over the water towards a hill. The picnic instantly turns into a horror movie. The lady vanishes just to reappear a moment later much closer. Before the family manages to react or say hi, she disappears again. This story happened in the 1930s and was later told by the family's son, Patricio Lujan. The mysterious lady left no footprints, and the family was sure they'd met a local celebrity. The Weeping Woman, or La Llorona, is one of the major spooky figures in Mexican folklore. Although no one knows exactly when or where the tale originated, it's been part of the culture since the conquistadors' days. La Llorona is a wailing phantom, usually depicted as a tall, pretty woman in a white gown with long black hair. But those who claim to see her warn that her beauty is deceiving. She can attack people and even drag them into the water. The details of the legend vary, but here's the most common narrative. There once lived a Mexican woman, Maria, who was very beautiful. One day a man of a higher social status visited her village, fell in love, and they got married. The couple lived peacefully, isolated from the husband's high-class roots, and they had several children. But unlike Cinderella, Maria didn't live happily ever after. Her husband got bored and began to disappear for extended periods of time. Some versions say he abandoned Maria to marry a woman of higher status. Others say he was drinking and womanizing. Some speculate that he wanted to separate Maria and her children to integrate them into his aristocratic world, where their mother would never fit into. In any case, she failed to cope with his betrayal. Driven by rage, she went to the river and did something, well, unsportsmanlike, which left her husband a childless widower. So, there you have it. A regular woman turned into a monstrous phantom, La Llorona. According to the legend, she can't rest in peace because she's cursed to spend eternity wandering around rivers and lakes in search of forgiveness. Some say she may kidnap other children, confusing them with hers. But according to other versions, this phantom prefers to haunt unfaithful husbands and bad mothers. It's no wonder that parents use this legend to scare kids and blackmail them into obedience. But hey, there's more to this story than meets the eye. Let's take a look at the historical context in which La Llorona emerged. In the 16th century, Mexico was facing disputes with the Spanish conquistadors. Meanwhile, the Outlanders' leader, Hernan Cortez, had a relationship with the local woman known as La Malinche. As part of the peace agreement, 20 indigenous women, including La Malinche, were doomed to serve Cortez and his European fellows. Born to a noble family, La Malinche had some useful skills and a diplomatic approach. First, she became Cortez's personal translator, and then his mistress and mother of his son. La Malinche didn't get her happily ever after either. Cortez abandoned her to marry a Spanish lady. As for their son, he was recognized as legitimate, separated from his mother, and sent to Spain for education. The majority of historians agree that La Malinche played a crucial role in the country's transformation. Some call her a traitor, others believe she couldn't have acted differently in those circumstances. In any case, the similarities between the legend of La Llorona and La Malinche are obvious. Both were neglected by a wealthy outlander who wanted to take their children away. And both stories can be seen as an embodiment of misunderstanding between indigenous people and incoming Europeans. So the reason La Llorona is such an iconic figure lies in the cultural climate. Her myth tells us what La Malinche might have done had she allowed anger to get the best of her. Some believe that La Llorona is challenging traditional patriarchy, while others see her as a sad symbol of despair. But for those who claim to meet her in real life, this wailing phantom is more than just a spooky myth. At first, people reported seeing and hearing La Llorona crying near the bodies of water in Mexico, and eventually, her presence spread to nearby territories, including the United States. Over the years, the legend flourished with further details and locations, such as villages, roads, and even railway stations. There were reports about a La Llorona appearing in the back seat of those cars whose drivers refused to stop and give her a ride. So, if you ever see a spooky, wailing lady hitchhiking on the road, be prepared. It's a tricky dilemma, though. Would you rather stop and give La Llorona a ride, or drive by hoping she won't take revenge on you? Let us know in the comments. According to urban legends, the Santa Fe River is one of her favorite places to go. La Llorona has been repeatedly seen in the Public Employees Retirement Association building, which is located nearby. The local employees reported hearing her cries resounding through the walls. Moreover, they felt invisible hands pushing them while walking down the stairs. Oh my. But still meeting a phantom at your workplace is not as scary as seeing her staring at you through the window of your own bedroom. One winter night, a girl from Santa Fe, who was 12 years old when it happened, was sitting in her room with a cousin. It was snowing outside. Suddenly, they heard a noise from the street. A mysterious, pale lady was standing by the window, dressed all in white and crying. They called their parents, who rushed outside to investigate, but they found no footprints on the fallen snow. It's getting creepier. Here's a story posted online by a woman from Lompoc, a small town in California. One night, when she was only 8 years old, she had a huge dispute with her mom. Finally, she was told to go to bed. She tossed and turned, but she couldn't fall asleep. Suddenly, she noticed someone standing by her bed. It was a lady in a black dress. She had a creepy smile on her face and 2 black holes instead of eyes. Her long black hair was blowing in the wind. The mysterious guest wouldn't go away, so they kept on staring at each other for a while. And then the girl got tired and fell asleep. After that, she began to experience strange events in that house after that very night. It's no wonder that this wailing entity has inspired so many plays, TV shows, and movies over the years. The earliest written reference dates to the late 19th century. Mexican poet Manuel Carpio wrote a sonnet, La Llorona. However, his poem is about a phantom of a woman whose life was taken by her husband. One of her latest appearances on the screen was in 2018. She was portrayed as a main villain in the movie The Curse of La Llorona. Also, this phantom has a huge impact on music. You must have heard about the Mexican folk song titled La Llorona. It's been out there for so long that nobody knows its exact origin. It was first recorded in 1949 by a famous composer and songwriter, Andres Gines Rosa, and has since been performed and covered by numerous musicians all over the globe. In 2017, the song popped out in a Disney film, Coco. If you're in love with the spooky and bright features of Mexican folklore, then you should check out this cartoon. It's the story of a young Mexican guitar player who's taking a trip around the fancy afterlife world to investigate his family's history. And remember, if you ever find yourself in the middle of a forest alone at night and hearing a weeping lady, don't rush to run away. Chances are, you'll have the most genuine talk about the ugly side of patriarchy and make a new friend. In the meantime, stay safe and don't forget to subscribe.
Hey screamers and full-time trick-or-treaters! I have the ultimate horror movie challenge for you. I'll give you some random information about the plots of the movies and shows, and you will have to guess their names. Now grab your quill and grimoire to write down your scores. Give yourself a candy point if you know the answer, and a slap on the face. No point if you don't. Let's begin. In this movie, the main characters and their kids are accompanied by 4 singing busts while searching for the mausoleum. Can you tell me which movie this is? And here's a hint. It has the word haunted in it. It's Disney's The Haunted Mansion, which was released in 2003. You can also find the ride attraction of this movie at Disneyland. And actually, the movie is based on the ride and not the other way around. In this movie, the neighbor of the main character scares children away from his front yard and confiscates their belongings. Do you know its name? It's the 2006 animated movie Monster House. One of its screenwriters received a letter about how this movie is nightmare-inducing. Well, you'll have to watch and decide for yourself if you haven't yet. In this movie, the main character travels into a world where all the creatures have buttons instead of eyes. Which movie is this character from? It's the 2009 stop-motion movie Coraline, which was based on the Neil Gaiman book of the same name. If you haven't watched it yet, here's some advice. Don't be tricked by it being an animation. Think twice before watching it with any kids around, because I guarantee that it'll give you the heebie-jeebies. In this movie, a zombie falls in love with a living human girl and does everything he can to protect her. Do you know it? It's Warm Bodies, which was released in 2013 and based on a novel. By the way, it's also a romantic comedy movie, so you can watch it on Valentine's Day too. It's a win-win for partners with different film tastes, am I right? In this movie, David Bowie steals a baby. Do you know the name of it? This movie is called Labyrinth, and it was released in 1986. Since it's an old one, don't beat yourself up if you don't know it. But David Bowie sings with puppets in it, so it's a good fit for the pumpkin season. This one is not a movie. It's a mini-series, and in it, one of the characters wears a teapot on his head and has a pet frog. Do you know its name? It's Over the Garden Wall. This 10-episode animated show aired in 2014, but it quickly became a classic. This movie's antagonist is a bioexorcist, and his name consists of two words, a bug and a drink. Can you guess the movie? It's Tim Burton's 1988 movie, Beetlejuice. Here's some great news for its fans. Earlier this year, it was announced that there's going to be a sequel to it. This movie is about a vampire who returns to his ancestral home after being imprisoned for almost 200 years, only to find out his dysfunctional descendants need his help. Do you know its name? Another movie by the Gothic director Tim Burton. This one is called Dark Shadows, and it was actually based on a television soap opera of the same name. In this movie, a boy has to lift a 300-year-old witch's curse to save his town, despite the fact that everyone in it thinks he's crazy. Can you tell me what this movie is? It's the 2012 animated stop-motion movie Paranorman, which is actually produced by the same company that made Coraline. In this movie, a boy is turned into a mouse by the leader of a witch coven. Do you know its name? This movie, which is based on a Roald Dahl novel, is called The Witches, and it actually has two versions. The first one was made in 1990, and the second one was made in 2020. Since I'm feeling generous, you can give yourself an extra point if you knew this information. In this movie, a boy must tell scary stories to a witch every night in order to survive. Can you guess its name? It's the 2021 movie called Night Books. In this movie, monsters, which are actually characters from books, come to life, and the author of the books must stop them with the help of a few teenagers before they wreak havoc upon their town. Can you tell me its name? It's the 2015 movie Goosebumps, which is based on the horror book series of the same name, written by Robert Lawrence Stein. So you've made it to question number 13. It's time to take things up a notch on the scary meter then. In this movie, a group of counselors try to reopen an abandoned summer camp with a grim past. Tell me its name. Come on, I know you know this. It's nothing other than the 1980 movie Friday the 13th, of course. You know what the funny thing is? The Friday the 13th franchise actually consists of 12 movies as of today. This movie follows a young pregnant woman with peculiar neighbors, whom she thinks have sinister intentions for her baby. Do you know the name of it? Psychological horror, everyone? It's the 1968 movie Rosemary's Baby, the movie which its producers thought to be cursed due to some tragic events that took place while filming it. In this movie, after hearing some unfortunate news, a woman and her family begin to discover terrifying secrets about their ancestry. Vague much? But you can tell me its name if you're a true horror fan. It's the 2018 movie Hereditary. By the way, did you know that its director pitched this movie as a family drama? Talk about marketing skills, am I right? Do you think your life is more like work hard, play hard, or like all work and no play? If your answer is the latter, then which movie's antagonists feel the same way as you? The movie that uses the all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy proverb is Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, which was based on the Stephen King novel of the same name. If you were a character in this movie, you would have to live in complete silence to be able to survive. Can you name the movie? It's the 2018 post-apocalyptic movie A Quiet Place, with a sequel released in 2021. Shh. In this movie, a group of losers have to destroy a shape-shifting sewer monster. What movie is it? It's the 2017 movie It. Just like The Shining, this one is also a Stephen King novel adaptation. Here's another mini-series question for you. This one is about 5 siblings who eventually have to flee the house they were trying to renovate. Do you know which series this is? This 10-episode miniseries is The Haunting of Hill House, and it's actually the first installment of the Haunting Anthology series. How about we end things on a higher note, so that you'll still be able to sleep in the dark? In this last movie, there's a giant plant that sings to be fed. Do you know it? It's Little Shop of Horrors, which was adapted by an off-Broadway musical, which itself was adapted by the 1960 movie of the same name. Now, let's see how well you did. If you have 0 to 5 candy points, you're a ghost, because nobody can see you anywhere near the movie theater. If you have 6 to 10 candy points, you're a zombie, because you're slow when it comes to catching up with movies. If you have 11 to 15 candy points, you're a werewolf who once in a while misses a movie due to nights with the full moon. If you have 16 to 21 candy points with an extra point included, you're a vampire who drinks every movie in.
Welcome to the Hall of Monsters. I see you are wearing your protective gear. That's good, because during your visit here, your safety is not guaranteed. So, every step you take, beware, for the monsters you'll see ahead are the scariest ones from Japanese folktales. If they don't haunt you during your visit, they sure will haunt your dreams. And let me tell you, no anime you have watched could have prepared you for this. I already see doubt and fear in your eyes. So let's begin our tour before you lose that little flicker of courage left within you. There's no better monster to greet you than the Naparabo. You might not notice it, but it is happy to have new victims. I mean visitors. Naparabo looks like an ordinary human being in almost every way. That is why it can blend in seamlessly with human society. But things will quickly get uncanny once you meet face to face with it. You see, it has no face at all. Its head is like a blank orb. But here's the thing. Naparabo is quite harmless. It only frightens people. That's it. In legends and stories, it usually does that by impersonating someone familiar to its potential victims. And once it has their attention, it causes its features to disappear. Almost as if erasing a pencil drawing. What is left is a blank, smooth sheet of skin with no eyes, nose, or mouth. So, as you might have imagined, its true identity and what it really looks like is unknown. One of the stories in which Naparabo appears is about a lazy fisherman. Despite his wife's warnings, he goes fishing from a sacred imperial koi pond. On his way there, he meets another fisherman who also warns him not to go there. Still, he ignores him. Once he arrives at the pond, a beautiful young woman begs him not to fish there. But he doesn't listen to her either. That is when she wipes off her face. When the fisherman runs home to hide with fear, his wife confronts him and criticizes him for his wrongdoing. Plot twist. only to wipe her face as well. Speaking of fish and ponds, let's move on to Cup Fa. Don't fall for their rather funny and mascot-like appearance. Cup Fa is a dangerous monster you wouldn't want to cross paths with. These creatures, which are often depicted as humanoid turtles, live in and around water bodies such as lakes, ponds, or rivers. Cup Fas are generally the size of a human child, yet they are physically stronger than a grown man. Their skin color can vary from different shades of green to bright red and even blue. In addition, they can either be slimy or covered in scales. As unique as each Cup Fa can be, they all have a turtle shell on their back and a mouth resembling a beak. Their arms and legs are webbed between the toes and fingers, but the most characteristic part of their appearance is the bowl-like objects that lie on top of their skulls. This is considered to be the source of Cup Fa's power and life force, and must be kept filled with water at all times. If this water spills or the bowl is damaged in any way, a Cup Fa can become incredibly weakened and will be unable to move. Cup Fas are known to cause mischief. Although they can befriend humans, you should always approach one with caution, because they might try to lure you into the water to feed on you. However, there's also a chance they might challenge you to a sumo wrestling match. Just know that they are really good at it before accepting this challenge. Yet again, if you do find yourself in a match, here's a pro tip. Find a way to trick the Cup Fa into bowing so low that the water in its dish spills out. And hey, if you refill that water later, you can bring the creature under your command. Take a look at this lady here. She seems to be sleeping peacefully, right? Well, look again. There's something strange going on with her neck. Rokurokubi might appear as an ordinary woman by day, but when it's nighttime and her body is asleep, her neck stretches to incredible lengths and roams around freely. Although Rokurokubi is no less creepy than the other creatures, there is something that makes her different. It is that, unlike others, she is actually not born as a monster. She used to be a human being just like us, but she was transformed by a curse resulting from some evil action or misdeed. But the story gets sadder, because the mentioned misdeed doesn't necessarily have to be her own doing. In many cases, it is either Rokurokubi's husband or father who actually committed evil actions. But she's the one paying the price because the curse only affects women. If you think Rokurokubi cannot be that harmful or scary with that heartbreaking backstory, then you're right. Her head might attack small animals sometimes, or she might cause mischief by scaring nearby people. But that's mostly it. What she loves to do in her night travels, however, is to lick up lamp oil with her long tongue. Well, who are we to judge someone's favorite food? Nukakubi is Rokurokubi's much scarier sister. She is like an advanced version of her, sort of like an upgraded Pokemon. While Rokurokubi's head is always attached to her body, Nukakubi's head can come off from the neck and float around far and away from her body. The worst part is, though, she can get bloodthirsty sometimes, and that's when her detached head will start preying on humans to quench that thirst. However, she is not invincible. It is believed that if her body moves by any chance while it is sleeping, and her head is still floating around as that happens, then her head cannot return back to the body. Hope that comforts you a bit. You see a roll of cotton. I see a life-threatening monster. According to Japanese folktales, especially the myth of Tsukumogami, inanimate objects receive a soul, therefore become alive and self-aware after serving their owners for 100 years. Although they are usually harmless, they might tend to play small pranks on people. Yet again, they still have the capacity to get angry and vengeful, especially if there are people who threw them away or didn't treat them well. They might group up to take revenge. Ittan Momen is one of those object monsters. These possessed long and narrow sheets of cloth which were used to make clothes, can be seen flying through the night sky. They are often malicious and attack people by wrapping their bodies around a person's face and neck, strangling or smothering them. In some tales, it is said that wrapped cloths would spin around and around and quickly come flying to wrap themselves around people and take them away to the skies. Joker's laughter is gonna sound like music to your ears once you hear this lady's. Waruhion is a female-looking monster that lives in the mountains, but despite her non-threatening appearance, meeting one will actually put you in a really dangerous position. She will smile and start laughing at you, and once she does, you'll realize that her laughter is somewhat toxic and infectious. It will cause you to start laughing along too. But even if she leaves, you will continue laughing after her until you are out of breath and unable to stand. Even if you were strong enough to resist laughing along with her, you would still not be safe. You see, merely hearing her laughter, no matter how far away she cackles, is enough to put you in a stupor. You'll be haunted by that annoying and ear-piercing sound wherever you go, for the rest of your life. However, it's not like anybody who travels through the mountains will meet her. There is one way to avoid this laughing curse altogether. You see, she appears to people only on the 1st, 9th, and 17th day of each month. So, plan your travels accordingly.
You're strapped in a boat cruising down the Amazon River with the sun scorching hot. As you check out your map, your boat starts rocking back and forth. The water is starting to get more intense, so you hang on for dear life. You tuck your map in your pocket and try to take control of your boat. You strike some jagged rocks and duck low to avoid tree branches. Your boat strikes a large rock out of nowhere and capsizes. You're swimming in the murky green water. While you're trying your best to get ashore, your boat gets washed away. Underneath the water lies a whole new world of bizarre and dangerous animals. Candiru fish are snake-like creatures that can grow up to 16 inches long. Arapimus can weigh more than an adult male and are taller than most basketball players. They are the biggest freshwater fish in South America. They have a hybrid gill system that forces them to pop up to the surface every 5 to 15 minutes to breathe in oxygen for their large swim bladder. You swim out of the raging water and dry yourself off. Oh no, your map is completely soaked. There's no way you can get to your destination without it. You venture into the thick rainforest, shoving the branches and leaves away. As you get deeper, you notice something on a tree. It's barely moving, but it's got sharp claws and a raggedy coat. It stretches its arm to another branch and tries to pull itself up, ever so slowly. Sloths sleep more than half their days and only head down from trees once a week. They're so motionless, they sometimes grow algae and moss on their fur. The rainforest gets denser with each step until there's barely any sunlight illuminating the path in front of you. You notice a figure following you. With every branch you step on, you can hear a faint sound right next to you creeping around. You start walking a bit faster, and the sound catches up with you. You make it out of the dense part and tread along a narrow path until you reach a cliff. You can't walk normally here, so you pin against the wall and walk sideways to cross the hills. You slowly move across with the river 30 feet below you. You move your right foot, and some rocks fall into the river. You keep going and misstep. You're about to fall, but you hold on to a large tree branch and pull yourself up. You notice a couple of colorful poison frogs inches away from your fingers. Touching any of these frogs can be extremely dangerous and harmful, despite their amazing color patterns. The golden poison frog is one of the most poisonous animals in the world. One of them hops right next to you, so you let go of the branch and fall back in the river. The river is washing you down until you reach a calm current. Underneath you is a swarm of piranhas swimming with their sharp teeth. The red color on their skin is unmistakable, so you swim off like an Olympic athlete. Piranhas will eat anything that gets in their way, no matter the size. You grip onto a log and climb up a small rock to catch your breath. There's a huge electric eel underneath the rock. Despite their name, they're more related to catfish than eels. They use their powerful 600 volts of electricity to defend themselves and catch food. You're stuck, unless you're like the common basilisk that can run on the water like a jet ski. These incredible lizards have special webbing on their toes and can run the distance of a basketball court. You hop on a bunch of rocks until you reach the land. You continue walking along the riverbank until you come across a moving rock. You rub your eyes and see it moving again. It's a dinosaur-looking turtle that resembles a crocodile with armor. The mata mata is a freshwater turtle that disguises itself with its surroundings to catch prey. Their heads stretch longer than their bodies. You shimmy your way past it and continue. You head back into the rainforest and find a spot to rest. Wait, there are giant ants everywhere. They're the biggest ants in the world and can produce one of the most painful stings out there, even comparable to a wasp's sting. You immediately get up and find another place to rest. As you continue walking along, you notice the same feeling of something following you. You can hear some leaves rustling, but it's getting dark and there's no way of telling. You find a nice little spot to build a campfire and catch some Z's. But in the Amazon, everything is a threat, except for those cute capybaras wandering around. They live in groups next to water sources. They're also the biggest rodents in the world. You don't need to worry about them if you're stuck in the middle of the Amazon rainforest. Suddenly, you feel something slithering up next to you. You look down and see a massive green anaconda just about to constrict you. They are the heaviest snakes in the world and can grow up to 20 feet long and have a huge appetite. You get up and sprint your way out of there. All right, you found a decent cave to crash in. It's daytime again, and you're still alive. You continue walking along the rainforest. You were able to find some breakfast to boost your energy for the rest of the day. You spot something on a tree that looks like a branch, but it's actually a potu, a master of disguise that can spend days motionless on broken tree branches. These bizarre birds use those branches as their permanent home, where they lay their eggs and chill all day. You continue your way through the rainforest and see a Brazilian wandering spider crawling on a tree branch right in front of you. 8 of these species can be found in the Amazon area. They are some of the most aggressive and venomous spiders out there. So, you make a big detour and walk away from it. You feel someone walking next to you again, but you still can't figure out what it is. You see a steep cliff with a waterfall hitting a large lake ahead of you. Looks peaceful, until you see a team of black caimans gathering around the shore. They're the biggest predators in the whole Amazon ecosystem and feed on anything that moves. It's a good thing you're on high ground, otherwise, whoa! You slip and fall down the river, right on the deep end. So far, no caimans spotted you. You swim underwater and try to get to the opposite end of where the reptiles are. As you climb out and dry yourself off, you notice some large black spots on you. You try pulling them off, but they've latched on pretty hard. The Amazon giant leech finds its target by tracking movement and shadow. Once they attach themselves to the skin, it's extremely difficult to extract them. The best way to do so is to slide your finger next to its mouth and pull it off slowly. Ugh. You manage to get them off your body and see that the caimans are swimming towards you. You're pinned to the wall with the lake of hungry reptiles approaching. Suddenly, a pink dolphin jumps out of the water and splashes all over them. They can grow larger than humans and are the celebrities of the Amazon. Scientists think they get their color from the blood capillaries on their skin. The Amazon even has bull sharks swimming around. These carnivorous giant fish are threatening to humans and can swim in both saltwater and freshwater. These sharks prey on anything within their reach, including other sharks. The dolphin distracted the caimans, so you climb up the cliff and try to find the best way to escape. Opened jaws waiting for you to fall into the pit are right below you. You're lucky enough to escape to the top, but as your arms pull you up, the first thing that you see is a jaguar looking straight at you. It's the creature that's been following you this whole time. You get up while it starts circling you, timing its strike. You know that you can't take on a jaguar, nor can you outrun it, so you grab a large tree branch from the ground to defend yourself. It jumps at you, but you duck down in time. The jaguar lands in the water far away from the caiman crocs. It's a good thing these large kitties are excellent swimmers. You pick yourself up and continue. And to your surprise, you find your boat again. You fix it up and sail your way out of the Amazon. Whew!